Hello class! This morning we're going to be reading a story called The Song of the Teeny Tiny Mosquito. So this is another insect book that we're going to be reading about, mosquito. The Song of the Teeny Tiny Mosquito, written by Alma Flor Ada and illustrated by Vivi Escriva. All at the crack of dawn, perched on a log, a mosquito came into view of a frog. The frog with the howdy hey ho opened his mouth and took a quick gulp. Bye-bye, teeny tiny mosquito. Do you see the mosquito and the frog? Frog and log rhyme. See, he's trying to eat the mosquito. Not thinking for a minute he'd done anything wrong, the frog patted his stomach and burst into song. But his bog mate shouted not a single bravissimo, for instead of deep bass notes, they heard other sounds, the buzzes and squeaks of teeny tiny mosquitoes. So he hears all the other mosquitoes. By mid-morning, the frog had only one wish, not to be eaten by a hungry fish. This was the frog, as I'm sure you know, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. So the frog does not want to be eaten by a fish. Very good. So the frog ate the mosquito. The fish will eat the frog. Not thinking for a minute she'd done anything wrong, the fish raised her fin and burst into song. But her sea-fearing friends shouted, not a single bravissimo, for instead of high fish notes, they heard other sounds, the buzzing and squeaks of teeny tiny mosquitoes. With the clock chiming noon, the fish had bad luck. She landed kerplump in the jaws of a duck. This was the fish, as I'm sure you know, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down the teeny tiny mosquito. So the frog ate the mosquito, the fish ate the frog, and now who's eating the fish? That's right, the duck is eating the fish. Not thinking for a minute he'd done anything wrong, the duck opened his bill and burst into song. But his feathered friend shouted, not a single bravissimo, for instead of loud quack quacks, they heard other sounds, the buzzing and squeaks of teeny tiny mosquitoes. When dusk came, the duck's life had a change in style. How different things looked in a crocodile. This was the duck, as I'm sure you know, who at noon had eaten the fish, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down the teeny tiny mosquito. Who's eating the duck? That's right, the crocodile is. Not thinking for a minute she'd done anything wrong, the croc raised her snout and burst into song. But her thick-skinned friend shouted, not a single bravissimo, for instead of the low croc notes, they heard other sounds, the buzzing and squeaks of teeny tiny mosquitoes. Everything shone brightly by the light of the moon, as it hung in the sky above the lagoon. With a pain in her belly, the croc was soon struck, so badly, in fact, she coughed up a duck. This is the duck, as I'm sure you know, who at noon had eaten the fish, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down the teeny tiny mosquito. So she coughed up the duck. Do you see her coughing up the duck? The stars came out before anyone spoke. In a short while, the duck awoke. His stomach ached and he was feverish. To the surprise of his friends, he coughed up a fish. This was the fish, as I'm sure you know, who at mid-morning had eaten the frog, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down the teeny tiny mosquito. So now we have the duck coughing up the fish. What do you think's going to happen next? That's a good guess. Let's see. On that starry night, without a trace of fog, the fish squirmed in pain and coughed up the frog. This was the frog, as I'm sure you know, who at the crack of dawn had gulped down a teeny tiny mosquito. See him coughing it up? The fish coughed up the frog. The frog opened his mouth, a gigantic affair, and the happy mosquito took off to the air. Many buzzes and squeaks and a howdy hey ho, with a bye-bye froggy thrown in as the teeny tiny mosquito. See, he coughed up the mosquito. He's free. Shout into the sky on his merry way, buzzing and squeaking to this very day. And ear-splitting shouts of bravissimo are heard after each song of the teeny tiny mosquito. So the mosquito and everybody escaped. No one was eaten, and look, they all lived happily ever after. The end. I hope you enjoyed the song of the book of the tiny mosquito. I heard a lot of rhyming words in here, like wrong and song and luck and duck and log and frog and let's see, spoke, awoke, moon, lagoon, struck, duck, fog, frog. Lots of different words that sound very similar. The end sounds sound the same, and those are all called rhyming words. Can you think of a rhyming word or two? If you can think of some rhyming words, will you please message Miss Megan and let her know the rhyming words that you heard or that you know?